Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here today. It's a privilege to serve Governor Snyder and his team, and it's a privilege to engage with the citizens of Detroit and Michigan. I want to share some thoughts with you today about my experience over the last 6 months, and I want to share some thoughts about our experience in New Orleans, and maybe there are some lessons to be learned or some opportunities to be gained. I think we all recognize that we face significant educational challenges in Detroit which daily corrode the ability of young children to be successful in life and undermine the ability of this great city and this great state to reach its fullest potential. No one denies that the overall outcomes for children, far too many of them in Detroit, are unacceptable, regardless of whether we're talking about traditional schools or public school or charter schools. We know this to be true especially because so many children leave Detroit for the perimeter schools due to dissatisfaction with academic achievement and safety. We cannot deny that the mechanics of making decisions about where parents will send their children are chaotic. So thinking that a free market system will work as it is working today is wishful thinking. But likewise, thinking that a monopolistic bureaucracy is delivering real choice for parents is also wishful thinking. Nor can we deny that a number of high-quality seats for children in Detroit are woefully inadequate to serve the needs of this community on the rebound. So let's recognize a broader view. Let's recognize that it's not about one side did something wrong or one side did something right. It's about how both sides need to do something better together. Let's recognize that it's not about public charter schools being the preferred solution, nor is it about public traditional schools being the preferred solution. It's about the best schools being the preferred solution so that kids can succeed. And let's recognize that while adults debate and argue about what's right and wrong, children are the losers. Children should not have to wait for the adults to get their act together. Now, why does a person from Louisiana say this kind of thing to you? Because this is the kind of thing that we had to say to ourselves in New Orleans. And I dare say if we look back on almost 10 years ago after Katrina, you would have heard these same kinds of comments describing the city of New Orleans. Yes, Hurricane Katrina was a tragic and terrible storm, but Katrina was not an ill wind that blew no good. While it knocked New Orleans to its knees, thankfully, we did not stay on our knees, and we rejected that the notion of the future would be a mirror of the past. Our then Governor Blanco adopted a bold principle for public education in the city of New Orleans. We will change the education institutions dramatically in order to improve academic achievement for all New Orleans students. No adult group, and no institution would outrank the objective of children, and there would be no sacred cows. There were 3 principles that she adopted in legislation that passed only months after Katrina. Number 1, we must depoliticize the environment in which schools are opened, operated, consolidated, and closed. Number 2, adult rights were no longer going to trump children's rights. And number 3, principals and teachers should be empowered to do their work. And if they did their work well, they would be given more schools to preside over. But if they did not do their work well, they would lose the privilege of running schools. We were broken in New Orleans. We had no alternative. But we adopted a different model for New Orleans. And this is a demonstration of the results that we've achieved over the last few years. They'll put that on the screen for me right now. We have essentially the same demographics today as we had before Katrina. About 66,000 kids before Katrina. Today, about 45,000 kids. But the population of children is essentially the same, and the actual disadvantaged children in New Orleans has grown from 77%, you can see in the pie chart on the left, to 83%. But on school performance, those two bar charts on the left page show the dark blue. 62% of schools in New Orleans before the storm were F schools. Today, only 7% of schools in the city of New Orleans are F schools, and where 7% were A's before the storm, 14% are A's today. The district overall, if you would look at the schools in New Orleans before the storm, was the second lowest performing district in the state. Today, it's 41 of 69 districts. And the academic achievement on the bars on the right show dramatic improvement in academic achievement on the top left of the right-hand page from 25% to 62%. Other achievement for special education has risen, graduation rates have risen. Now clearly, a long way to go, but clearly a remarkable amount of gain in a relatively short period of time. Now in a way, your community has suffered an insidious storm too. It's more of an economic storm that in some ways rival Katrina. Will this insidious storm that your city has endured be an ill wind that blows no good? I think not. I'm very encouraged by many things for the children and for the future of Detroit. I'd like to give you 4 examples why I'm encouraged. First, there's a broad cross-section of the Detroit community that realizes what the problems are and are coming together in this coalition to support the children of Detroit. Second, the governor and the mayor know that strong public schools in the city will be essential to keep the historic turnaround going strong and to ensure a strong Detroit can and will grow and will thrive. Third, there's a recognition that the state alone cannot succeed in bringing coherence to the education system in New Orleans or in Detroit, nor does the city have an adequate track record of being able to do it by itself. It will take the talent and focus of both to make this work. Fourth, an historic comeback of Detroit is underway. It was not thought possible, but it serves now as an example of all the good and amazing things that are possible when people of all backgrounds and stripes join a common goal, share in an interest to achieve an objective, and work hard toward it. I would urge all of you to support the forging of a new future for public education in the city of Detroit, based on a governance model and a management model that empowers principals and teachers to do the hard work that needs to be done, that sets a standard of expectation for all schools, where the standard of expectation rises over time periodically, which ranks the performance of every school based largely, but not solely, on academic achievement, and that clearly and transparently communicates in terms that all parents can understand, that creates a transparent enrollment system for parents and students to use, that encourages the best-ranked schools to be given the privilege of running more schools and removes the worst-ranked schools from the privilege of teaching your children. If you do these things in ways that make sense to you and that work for your local community, then you will be on a pathway to the success you deserve, and Detroit will be complete in its comeback. Thank you very much. Good luck to you, and Godspeed.